Hello, I'm coming to you today from a beautiful yet freakishly cold North Texas morning. Now it's actually not that bad, but it's Texas, and whenever it drops below freezing, everybody kind of freaks out. But I'm here today and I broke out my old leather jacket to talk to you about our first Flieger style watch. Now, the trick is that this German style pilot watch isn't actually German. In fact, it's Japanese. I'm talking about the Citizen Avion. Or Avion, depending on where you're from. This is the Citizen Avion, a modern interpretation of this watch, the b-uhren, or observation watch, which is the original Flieger. Now the b-uhren was actually not a single watch, but a type of watch the German navigators wore in World War II. They were produced to rigorous specifications by 5 different companies, a few of which still exist today. I'm not going to go into all the historic details about Flieger watches. That would be a whole 20-minute video on its own, and there are already a few really good ones on YouTube. But when you are looking at Fliegers, I think there's a couple points that you really should know about. The first is that they were definitely not designed to be fashion timepieces. They were designed to be precision navigational instruments. So they were very easy to read and manipulate. Thus, they were a bit on the large side. Actually, they were huge, especially by today's standards. The specifications were to be about 55 millimeters, and it was designed to be worn outside the wrist of your leather jacket while you were flying and strapped there with a big leather strap. It was basically like taking a giant pocket watch and wrapping around your wrist with your leather belt. The other thing to know is that when you are looking at Fliegers, you'll often find them referenced as either Type A or Type B, and this is referencing the type of dial it has. Now, while both dials share the iconic arrow at the top, the Type A was more like a regular watch where it had hour indicators on the outside, where Type B had hour indicators on a smaller subdial in the middle, and the outer dial was a minute indicators. Now, taking a look at the watch, you can see that the case is a brushed stainless steel. It's very nicely finished with no sharp edges. You can see the typical oversized crown at the 3 o'clock position. Now, if it was more historically accurate, it would be more of an onion-shaped. But the main point of the Flieger watch is that the crown is oversized so that it can be easily manipulated with thick gloves on. Now you can see that this is a Type B Flieger dial, although instead of the historic black and white color scheme, this is more of a charcoal gray background with high-vis yellow and red, with the outer minute dial in yellow, and the middle dial having both red and yellow and showing both 12 and 24-hour indications. Now, at one point, Citizen did make another version which is a little more historically accurate, although I'm not sure they're making it anymore. But I actually like the high-vis yellow and red better. It makes it a little more readable, which is in the spirit of Flieger watches. You can also see the Citizen and EcoDrive logos in white, as is the ever-important arrow triangle marker for the 12 o'clock position. The hour hand is red with a long skinny minute hand in black. The second hand is black but with an orange tip, making it stand out very easily. Looking closer, you can also see a raised sidewall with minute markers. Now, when you're looking at the watch, the very large flat mineral crystal, it gives it almost like a dial look, something like you'd actually find in a cockpit. Turning the watch over, we can see that it's a closed case back with the typical EcoDrive markings. Now let's quickly get some measurements out of the way before I get back to the strap of the watch. Now the Avion is 45 millimeters wide without the crown, and 48.5 millimeters with the crown, which is large by today's standards. But it's a whole lot smaller than the historic Fliegers. Lug to lug, it's about 45.5 and 12.5 millimeters thick. The watch definitely has a substantial feel to it, which is a nice way of saying that it's big and fat. But that is the price for having such an easily readable watch. It always comes down to the question of form versus function. Now here's a quick loom shot. Only the hour and minute hands have loom. But the loom is nice and bright and has a little bit of a blue hue to it. Personally, I would have loved it if the triangle at the top had loom, but oh well. Now let's get back to the leather strap. which is by far my biggest complaint.
Now, I have a love-hate relationship with the strap that this watch comes with. At first glance, it seems very nice, especially for the price you're paying for the watch. It's nice soft texture, it's very thick, it's pliable. It seems like something that should last you for years. But like all things, the devil is in the details.
Let's look at the buckle. While it is signed, which is nice, it's also very small compared to the strap it's on. Especially that tiny thin little needle that's on it, which has correspondingly tiny little holes on the other side, which I personally found to be a pain to take on and off at times. It just didn't seem to want to go in or come out easily. Oftentimes I felt like if I put too much force trying to take it on and off, that I'd wind up bending or breaking that little needle. Along the same lines, look at the thickness of the loops that go on the buckle. They're nothing compared to the strap itself. Now, this is probably just my opinion, but it just feels like over the course of a year or two, something's going to break or bend on it. Which is a real shame because the rest of the strap is actually very nice. Now, this is the kind of strap that it should have come with. It has a very similar style, but with more appropriate sized hardware to go with it. All for $7 with shipping from eBay. And from China, of course. Now, my only other complaint about this watch is that the hands don't perfectly line up with the indicators. They're a little off. Now, this is probably not indicative of this model, but specifically this watch. When you order online, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. Now, you can usually find the Avion for around $100 online, which makes it probably one of the cheapest Flieger style watches out there. So if you're curious about having one, but don't want to spend a lot on a more authentic German automatic, then this is definitely one to look at. I will say that this is definitely the most easy to read watch that I have ever had. Not to mention that it is very cool and has a very distinct historic look to it. But the question is, do I love the watch?
No, I don't. But I do like it, and I like the style a lot. I just wish it wasn't so big. After all, I don't need an accurate pocket watch strapped to my wrist to help me navigate. These days, there's a satellite with an accurate clock that helps me do that.
Thanks for watching. If you have a favorite Flieger, tell me what it is in the comments. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe.